Welcome to Big Thinkers Podcast, the show where I interview big thinkers in all areas, from investing, entrepreneurship, to coaching or mindset, for the purpose of finding what breeds success to help you level up. Enjoy the show. Welcome, guys, to the Big Thinkers Podcast. I've got a special guest today. I'm super excited. We got Antwann Richardson, and I don't even know really how to announce you because you've got your hand in so many different things. I don't know what to say. Entrepreneur is the only way I know to describe it.
That's a good description.
Because you kind of a little bit in everything, right?
I try to dibble and dab. I'm a little bit of a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah, I like that, though. And I've loved talking to you and different things, your mindset and things that you've said. One thing I remember before we even get into the show, last time we talked, we were talking about something with the gyms, and I made a comment that something hadn't been done before. And you were like, yeah, but we'll be first to market.
That's right.
It's just a different mindset of like willing to take on some risk and willing to do things a little different. And that's what the show is kind of about. You know, people that kind of think a little bit more creatively and think a little bit differently and are not just thinking differently, but doing differently. Yeah. You know, because one thing to think big, it's another thing to make it happen,
100%.
You know. So we've known each other for a long time, man. I'll tell a little bit. He was actually, I don't know what the exact role was, associate, youth pastor of mine at one time, weren't you?
Probably a flunky.
Yeah, it was like y'all and like Shane were kind of doing it, and you and your wife and Kalina, and how's she doing, by the way?
She's doing well, Thanks for asking.
So you knew me when I was a kid.
That's right.
A kid,
That's right.
Wet behind the ears.
That's right.
In the youth group.
That's right.
At church. So we've known each other for a very long time. And you've done a little bit of everything, man. You were in a band when I was a kid. You were, and I want to talk about that a little bit. Like,
yeah.
What was that like? Because, I mean, I remember when Plea 33 was like the top Christian band.
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, this was like early 2000s, right?
Right, that's right.
So what was that like?
It was awesome, man. I was the youngest in the band. I was probably 16 years old, 15, 16. Yeah, I was super young. I'm 40 now.
Okay.
So
you're 5 years older than me.
Yeah, so I was about 16. The other guys were older than me, and we did that for some time, man. We saw some success, and it was awesome going from one location to the other, small little rinky-dink church into bigger churches. It was awesome.
And y'all did some shows. I mean, y'all did like, I remember y'all did Shout Fest.
That's right.
One year, I remember seeing y'all there, and it was like astounding. Because y'all were so good. As a matter of fact, because weren't y'all out of like a little Church of God in Caledonia or something?
Well, actually, yeah, right before the railroad tracks.
And I went to church there one time.
Yeah, we had about 5 people.
Yeah,
and it was stark difference.
It was insane to me though, because I come in and y'all probably had legitimately 30 to 50 is who was there that day. Yeah. And then y'all's praise and worship, like the band was incredible.
right.
And I was like, this don't make sense.
That's right.
You know what I mean? This doesn't. And then that's when I first found out about you guys. So anyway, back to what we were saying. You were doing that and got, and didn't you get signed to another band?
Well, yeah. So after Plea, I was being the youngest. The older members moved on with life. You know, we kind of hit a fork in the road of, do we go all the way or do we? Yeah. Do we back up and
how likely is it?
How likely? We were thinking about moving to Nashville at that time, and the decision was let's kind of back up. And I tried to back up, but the music was still in me. And to be honest with you, I don't know if you remember MySpace.
Oh yeah.
But I was just on MySpace one day, and I came across this band that I remember opening up for us with Plea 33.
Okay.
And I saw him. I was like, I had nothing to lose. I just hit him up on MySpace and said, hey, hit me up, and gave him my cell phone number. They called me up all on speakerphone. Did you know
they needed somebody?
No. I literally did not want to let music go. So I just said, hit me up, and they all called me on speakerphone. And I was looking back, it was pretty cocky of me to do it the way I did it. But I said, But I just basically said, hey, look, I like you guys' music. This is what's gonna happen. I'm gonna join the band. I'm gonna be the bass player. We're gonna get signed, and we're gonna sell records.
Did they have a bass player?
They had a bass player. He was the lead singer.
Okay.
And so I noticed that, and I said, "What time is rehearsal?"
And where were they out of?
Oxford.
Okay.
So I joined the band, and we recorded a single, and within about 2 months, we had a record deal before we played our first show.
Wow.
So I understood the business side of it. And I said, I wanted that to happen. And once I got it, I got that piece of paper signed, and honestly, I felt in my heart at that moment, I really didn't care to do it anymore.
You got what you wanted out of it.
Yeah.
So what happened? Like what? Did you...
So I got it, and we started traveling a little bit. And at that particular time, my son was probably 2 years old. And every time I would come home from off the road, I would jingle the keys a little bit at the door, and I would hear his pity pat crawling. And then one day I did it, and I didn't hear the pity pat. And so I opened the door. I was like, "Where? He must be asleep." So I walked around the corner, and then he was walking. And I was like, "When did he start walking?" And my wife said, "Well, you wouldn't hear." And so at that moment, I thought about what was important,
everything,
and signed the release letter and got out of the band. But we saw some success. Had a top 20 songs on the billboards and all that good stuff.
Wow.
We're pretty big in the Dallas area. But it was more important for me to be there for my son, to see him grow up.
Family changes everything.
Absolutely.
Man. Changes your whole perspective. I mean, that's been so how did you go from that to business and then to entrepreneurship? What was that transition?
Yeah. So I don't know if you remember this. You probably don't, because you were super young. When I first got in real estate, I was really, really young. I was probably 19 years old. And one of the biggest opportunities that I got on a home, 19, 20 years old, was actually your house.
I remember Highway 12.
Yeah. No, it wasn't Highway 12.
Wow.
It was your house that you lived in. Christopher.
Being Christopher.
Being Christopher.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I met your dad, and I talked to your dad about selling real estate. And at that time, it was the biggest house that I ever had listed.
It was a nice house.
It was a very nice house.
Yeah, we bought that house. I think it was I don't remember if it was out of foreclosure, and my dad flipped it, but we lived in it for a little while.
Right.
Yeah.
You guys definitely was living in it.
Yeah, we lived in it.
Yeah,
and
but
it was by far the nicest house I've ever lived in.
Yeah. He gave me a shot, which I couldn't believe, by the way. But your dad actually gave me my first shot on my biggest home. Yeah.
Okay.
And so
I actually didn't know you sold that house.
I did.
I had no idea who sold that house. I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
I wasn't that young then, though. When we sold that house, I would have been going into my senior year of high school.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we moved out of that house going into my senior year. So I was a junior going into my senior year when we sold and moved out of that house, because my dad hated living in that house.
Really?
Hated it. We moved, my dad, and I am too a little bit, but not to the level he is. My dad is a country boy. And when you have a 16, 17-year-old son that has a pool and a big house with like a room for like the kids to hang out, I had company every night.
Right.
I mean, there was kids in my house all the time. My dad hated that. My dad didn't like company. He didn't like kids in his house. And I think that was one of the big, and it was just a lot to maintain, Yeah, like
it's a nice home.
And we downsized way down to a much smaller house that he's still in now. He's building my house now, but we downsized to a smaller house. And I think one of the main factors, he didn't like having neighbors. He didn't like having people next to him. He didn't like, my great-grandfather used to say, if you can hear your neighbor's shotgun, it's time to move. And he didn't like having neighbors. But, yeah, that's one of the reasons we sold that house. I had no idea you sold that house, man.
That was the biggest home, and it gave me a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
It gave me a lot of confidence. So tell your dad I said thank you.
I will.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So, you had to be, because if you were 18.
Yeah. I would have been turning 18.
Okay, so I probably was like 23, 24.
Yeah.
At that time. Yeah.
That's wild.
Well, that was the biggest home. That was the first time I had the big shot of a big home to sell, and they gave me a ton of confidence. They actually sold it again right after that. The people that bought it got me to sell it, so I sold the house twice.
Wow. Not double dipping.
Yeah, double dipping.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So what happened from there? Tell me a little bit more about what happened.
Yeah, so back up, when I left the band, I needed to get a grown person's career, and that's when I started in real estate. Didn't know much about real estate, but I was rookie of the year. It was going well, and I built a career from there. And then I learned something very important, and that's called a recession.
Yeah, I was just sitting here thinking when you were talking. I was like, man, that's around that 2008 recession.
Yeah,
that's about when that was right before that hit.
Right before that hit. Yeah. It was really, really strange. I did not know. I mean, recession hit hard. I was in the middle of real estate right when the recession hit. And so I remember that time my wife was pregnant with my son when the recession hit. And she was the athletic director at Mississippi School of Math and Science in Columbus. And real estate, I couldn't give a house away.
Yeah.
I'll never forget the time I was at a Mexican restaurant, and I had the home guide. I don't know if you remember the home guide. You just, like a little magazine with the houses. And I was sitting there trying to figure out how to afford a home guide ad. Because back then, there was no Facebook. There was no go to my website, really.
Yep.
The home guide was it. And so, went from selling a bunch of homes to how can I afford this $200-300 on this home guide ad? It was really tough. And to top it all off, my wife comes one day and she says, she was just upset, crying. So what's wrong? Because of the recession and things that were going on in the world, they let sports go in Mississippi School of Math and Science. Wow. So now I have a pregnant wife with no insurance, and she just lost her job, and I'm a realtor in a terrible market.
Man, one thing, we talk about like patterns.
Right.
And I have found people that go in, businesses that open during recessions typically are like your multi-million-dollar business.
Yeah. 100%.
And I think it's because of the mindset you have to develop to get through that. How did that help form you? How did that help, how did that mold you? Did it change you at all? Did you change the way you did things?
Yes and no. And here's why. Growing up, I grew up with nothing, right? I didn't grow up with anything, and was raised shortly, was born to a 15, 16-year-old mom in the middle of the projects in Memphis Town. And so she's Memphis Town.
Yeah.
So I watched my mom take absolute nothing, right, and create a home. And so I always tell people I get my strength from my mother, but I get my work ethic from my dad. Mm-hmm. And so I never have been scared of being broke because I've already been broke before, right? Grew up, so I'm playing on borrowed time. And to see her progress and the things she had to overcome, it just didn't scare me, because it's like, hey, I've always watched my mother. She probably didn't know that back then, but she was the master at pivoting. When something went wrong, she knew how to pivot and to figure it out. So I went into the mode of, I have to just pivot and figure it out. And so I didn't want a lot of time to feel sorry or feel nervous. I just had to pivot and figure it out. And that's what I did. And I always had a desire to want to be in banking, right, in finance. I used to watch those shows back in the day that always, what do you do? I'm a banker, or I'm a stock guy. Mm-hmm. And so I always wanted to do something like that. And a position came open at a bank, and I applied for it. Didn't hear back. I'm still trying to sell homes. Finally got a call back. And it said, hey, we want to interview you. Interviewed. And didn't hear anything back for a while. Went back for an interview. And finally the hiring manager told me, he said, look, I want you. Nobody else, none of the other managers do. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And I ended up getting the job.
Wow. How was the work relationship like with the other managers?
Oh, man. Well, get this. After I got hired to position, it was supposed to be in Columbus. Because of the recession, they said it's no longer in Columbus, it's in Tupelo. And the position I applied for was no longer available, but they had this other position, but I had to get rid of my real estate license to do it. And it was in Tupelo, an hour drive away. And the pay that I was initially was going to get was nowhere near. So it went from, I'm going to make maybe a certain amount to maybe $22,000, $24,000 a year to drive 1 hour.
Wow. 24,000?
Yeah.
Is there like a commission, something in this thing?
You just heard the commission. That's the whole cat and caboodle.
Wow. What were you doing?
I was let's just say entry-level credit manager for Wells Fargo.
Okay.
And I took the position. I took it because I needed the insurance. I needed the opportunity. I made sure that I was the first one there. I made sure that I busted my tail going there. I had to drive 1 hour there, 1 hour back, and things were going pretty good. I was getting my sea legs with that company and learning a ton about the financial industry. And then the next shoe drops. We were in a meeting, and they came on and said, hey, you guys need to go back to your offices. I said, okay, everything's okay. He said, we'll be on a phone call. We got on the phone call 3:30 that day, and it was a recording. And it said, thank you for jumping on this call. Just want to let you know, because of the merger with Wachovia, today will be your last day. Click.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's like
get some severance or something at least.
Isn't it crazy how things happen? So here's the thing. Here's the deal. They said you can get severance pay but if we offer you another position, you have to either take it or we'll take away your severance. And guess who got offered a position?
You did.
I did. In the middle of Memphis, Tennessee, in one of the worst areas. I walked up to the branch. It had bars on the windows. It was horrible. And I looked at my wife and I said, I can't work here. And I had to turn it down.
So no severance.
No severance.
Wow. So they basically, here's what I'm hearing they didn't want to pay you severance.
That's right.
So they offered you the one position and they knew you weren't going to take it.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's what observation. Yeah.
Okay, so what's the next move?
So next move was, I'll never forget this, and this goes back to a lesson I learned early on. You never know the people you encounter. You never know when you may see them again. Mm-hmm. So anytime you have an opportunity to build relationship. Don't look at opportunities so transactional. I hate transactional business. Mm-hmm. I love relationship business. During my real estate career, there was a certain house I was trying to sell, and I wanted the listing. Did not get the listing, but I checked on them. I called them. I took time with them. I followed up with them. They had questions for me. I would answer, even though I didn't have the listing. Come to find out, that same individual that I helped and had conversations with just happened to be a president of the bank years later.
Wow.
So I applied for a position at another bank during that time. And the same song and dance. I applied, didn't hear anything. Reach out, they finally called me. Interviewed, thought it went well, didn't hear anything. I'm getting totally discouraged at this point, right? And finally I get a call back and said, hey, I want to be completely honest with you. There was a person we wanted to have the position. They got offered another job and they took it. The second person we wanted didn't pass the test. You're the third person. So I guess you get it by default. Same thing.
We don't really want you, but we don't really want you.
Yeah. So I got the position. I took it. And it was to manage a bank.
Was it here?
It was here at Regions Bank.
Okay.
So I
did know it used to be at Regions.
Yeah. So I did. I took that position. Didn't have a clue starting out what I was doing. Didn't have a clue. But I wanted to make sure that the people that didn't want me, I wanted to make sure they knew that the people who did made the right decision. Mm-hmm. And so I used to take home the credit policy and read it back top to bottom. I learned every single thing about it, asked questions. I became a sponge. I wanted it so bad to be successful, and I just got manic. And if you want to be successful, you got to be manic about it. Yeah. You got to eat, sleep, and drink it.
Obsessed.
You got to obsess about it. And that's what I did. I became obsessive about being a successful banker. And through that, I just kept on. First year, did well. And then from that point on, top 10% of the company, year after year after year. Number one in this area, top in the state, top in the region, out of 20,000 bankers, top producer. And it had nothing to do with the fact that I knew more than a lot of those guys. I wasn't gonna let them outwork me. Yeah. That's the one thing I could control was my work ethic. Yeah. And I got very manic about it.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So how did you pivot again from a job at a bank to entrepreneurship?
Yeah, that's
a big and I say that because there are a lot of personality types, and I'm beginning to second guess this theory because I can think of two off the top of my head this doesn't apply to you and Zach, but usually people that are attracted to like accounting, banking roles aren't always they're more analytical, less visionary.
That's right. That's right.
So how did that pivot happen? Which that doesn't sound like that was you anyway.
Right. I was always a creative, right? I was a creative, but I had to. Growing up, you didn't see a lot of people lead that entrepreneur path. Mm-hmm. You didn't even know it was possible, and that's one thing I've learned in my career is proximity is everything in business. Being close. Yeah.
Proximity is power, they say.
Yes, being close to people that understand business and places that you're not at, to be able to see, but for you to be able to see what's possible, right? And so I didn't know that was an option, to be an entrepreneur, to be your own guy. I just didn't know. So the pivot happened was this. I never forget, a person wanted me, introduced me to a client, and he said, look, this client he's be a real good client for you. We took him out, played golf, and he said, I told him, I said, I'll give you a call on Tuesday. By that time, I got super comfortable where I was. I had an eye position where I wanted to be, wanted to climb the corporate ladder, thought that was the end all be all, right? And I didn't call that person back. I saw them calling me, but I was too busy, right? And so finally I left my office and that person called again. And I was like, oh, I'm in my truck. So I just hit accept. As soon as I hit accept, he gets on the phone and said, you're nothing. I don't even know this guy. He didn't use the word nothing. That's the rated PG version. And I said, excuse me? He said, you're nothing. In other words, I said, what do you mean I'm not nothing? He said, a man and his word is everything. And you didn't keep your word. So you're nothing to me. He said, I don't want anything from you, but I wanted you to know that you didn't keep your word. And he said, but I see something in you and I want you to be successful. And so let's have lunch. Click. I was totally just, I didn't know how to handle that conversation. It was the oddest conversation ever. And we had lunch.
This guy local?
Yeah, this guy local.
That's his name, but
yeah, it got local. He started showing me different things. And then he came to my office and said, hey, next week, can you take off? I said, yeah, I can take off. And he said, all right, we're going to Chicago. I have a business meeting in Chicago. I want you to be part of it. I want you to see some business things. I said, okay. What do you mean business things? He's like, I want you to see business on another level. All right, Chicago. He said, don't worry about your ticket. I got your ticket, got your room. You just need to make yourself available. Okay, great. Flew into Chicago. And I'm this guy who thinks he's a successful banker, got it all together, understands business. And we pull up to this biggest building I ever seen in my life at that point. I'm like, what? Where are we? And it was Aon. Aon is one of the largest companies on the globe. They touch 1/3 of all the business on the globe. And we walk in, business is it? Insurance, okay. Environmental. They do a lot of things. I mean, their hands are anything and everything. And we're going through security, very intimidating. Walk up, and I see his picture on the wall in this random hallway. I said, that's you right there. And I recognized the guy beside it. It was Magic Johnson. I said, why are you beside Magic? He said, well, he took over my position as a spokesperson. Okay.
Oh, I really want to.
We walk into the boardroom, and I'm sitting there, and the CEO of Aon comes in, dabs them up, and I'm like, oh, they know each other. They know each other. He's talking with me, and we sit down at the table, and he's like, hey, all right, guys, we're going to, mind you, Jake, I don't even know why I'm here in the room. So they said, we're going to do introductions. And my friend goes, you go first. You start it off. I'm like, I can't start it off. I don't even know why I'm here. So my mind is going in 1,000. I'm trying to figure out what to say. He said, no, start. I said, no, you can go first. It's you first. No, we want you to go first. And the only thing I could think of, Jake, was I said, my name's Antwann Richardson, and I'm his brand manager. It's the thing that came in my mind. Brand manager. I didn't know what to say. And I thought we had bro code going on, that he would just say, it just keep going. He looks at me and says, I'm not P. Diddy, brand manager. That's the best you can do. And everybody started laughing. He started laughing.
What'd you say?
I just put my head down. I was quiet the rest of the meeting. I was embarrassed.
Oh man, this is like, it's hilarious, but like at the same time I'm seeing it and it's like cringy. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
I'm super cringy. Oh
man,
I didn't even know how to. I was just.
You don't even know why you're there.
I know I'm there. I could tell that I'm out of place. I could tell I'm not. I'm the low man in the totem pole. It's obvious, right?
Right.
And at that moment, I realized there's levels to this.
Oh yeah,
there's levels. And so we flew back in, and it was just it wrecked me. It wrecked me because I started thinking, what am I missing? Like why? Like everything. My seat in my office didn't feel right anymore.
Yeah.
Right. Like making a loan didn't give me any type of fulfillment. And I'll never forget, he called me one day. He said, look, he said, you really want to move up the corporate ladder and become president and all that. See, yeah, I kind of do. And he said, this is what I want you to do. He said, I want you to look at somebody that you aspire to be, who's maybe 10 or 15 years ahead of you, and ask yourself, if you died there, would you be happy? That's what he said. If you died there, would you be happy? And I said, okay. And I was headed to Asheville, North Carolina, to the Chairman's Club celebration. Chairman's Club celebration for my company was the top 10% of the company. I'm there, and I'm about to walk on stage to get another award for the sixth time of the, in my career. And I stopped before I went across the stage. I stopped and I looked over the audience. And I said to myself, I'm sitting here and I'm excited to walk across the stage and get this fake piece of glass. And I'm seeing all this gray hair, and they're so happy to be there, which is fine. Yeah. They're not talking bad about the different strokes. Different strokes. And I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, I'm eating this dry chicken, and this is going to be life when I'm their age. I walk across the stage, I get my award, fly back in, and I put my 2 weeks notice in.
Wow. What for a lot of people would have been the highlight.
Right.
Was like the opposite turning point for you.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh man, this is it.
This is it. Yeah. Yeah. But I knew then, Jake, that for me, significance and legacy outweighed having a cushy 401k. That if I really wanted to be remembered, if I really wanted to leave a foundation and plan in place, then I had to step outside of what was comfortable in order to go after what was at that time seemed unattainable. Yeah. And so I really just leaned in and bet on myself at that moment.
So what'd you do?
So my mentor at that time, he said, I called him up. I said, okay, I'm fit to come work with you. He was like, whoa, time out. And I told him, I said, you told me that you wanted a person to come in and be your CFO. At that time, his company was growing, but it did not grow. It wasn't at a certain point. He was, not happy with. Mm-hmm. And kudos to him. He said, all right, let's make it happen. I left the bank and I took at that moment a $50,000 pay cut. Wow. $50,000 pay cut. And I went to my wife and I explained everything and I told her how much I was going to be making at that moment. And she said, do what? We just built a brand new home in Caledonia, Mississippi. Nice home, custom home. Just built it. Went in there a little bit over a year.
That payment still.
And I told her, I said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to downsize. We're going to put our house up for sale. And kudos to her. She believed it.
That's a ride or die right there.
Ride or die.
That's a ride or die.
We sold our home we just built, moved into a rental. So we went from custom home, comfortable, could have ridden it out, to a rental home by neighbors who would just walk in our house unannounced. We didn't even know them. Strange.
Way to get shot.
Yeah. So it was a big difference.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So what was the, and I'm just kind of pulling the story a little bit at a time here. You come in the CFO role. Mm-hmm. Now we've got hands in a lot of stuff.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like now you own the gym I work out at.
Yeah.
Plus 2 other locations.
Right.
Your wife runs, and I guess y'all run together. I don't know how that's divvied up. One of the bigger real estate brokerages in the area.
Yeah.
You've got real estate. Like how did that growth from that position?
Yeah. So when I started as a CFO role, at that moment, it gave me the opportunity to understand systems and understand how to scale. Mm-hmm. My next thing that I really got inundated with was scale, how to become scalable and scalability. And I realized then, you take not Elon Musk, Amazon, Jeff Bezos. Very simple. Jeff Bezos was selling books.
Yeah.
That's what he was doing.
Books
online. And finally, he looked around and said, I don't want to sell books. However, I've created this machine. I've created this mechanism that I can plug whatever I want to into, and I can scale it.
Yep.
he took what Amazon built, the machine, and now it's what we know.
Walmart at your house.
Exactly.
Yep.
So what I realized in the organization at that moment, we didn't have the machine built. So I started building a machine. At that time, we were probably about 10 or 15 employees when I first started in 2016, 2017, till 2019. We went from that to several companies, because at that time we were just doing environmental and some insurance. We scaled it from that to 2019 to over 300 employees. Our insurance company was a boutique insurance company. That's one of the companies. We insured every piece of artwork at every U.S. embassy on the globe. That's one of MGM Grand, we insured. Severstal, insured. So that was a really boutique, and we had an environmental firm that did a lot of the super fun sites you see, like with Kurt McGee and those things. That grew. We had a security where we did armed guards and unarmed guards for Texas A&M, Memphis Hospital, LSU.
So, when I'm looking at businesses, typically as you go into different things, it creates it's easy to run into a bottleneck because systems over here aren't systems over there.
Yeah.
And typically most people struggle even building businesses out for one thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas when you look at something like this where you're running systems for multiple things,
multiple industries,
you have a lot of different hats being worn, and those hats, I mean, your basic business structure might be similar.
Yeah.
But your systems, and if those people at home that don't know, systems are difficult to write anyway.
Right.
Because, you've got to have blame circles. You got to be able to track what went wrong when a system breaks.
That's right.
And you've got to be able to look at metrics and find, okay, well, what went wrong? It's not just SOP.
Right.
It's a system. There's a difference between SOP and a system.
That's right.
It's my least favorite thing to do on the planet, too, by the way, is write systems. There's nothing I hate more than writing systems, to the point I hired a fractional COO to help me when I have questions,
Yeah.
I don't even know what to ask here, because I'm like, how?
Right.
How do you do that? Especially in, you said 2-3 years?
2-3 years, we grew. Our revenue grew from all the way up past $30 million a year, and it grew fast. And you're exactly right. It's hard to build systems. It's a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
And I will tell you this: if you go back, and this saying is very true, as corny as it sounds, is you actually have to understand your why. That's one
not
thing.
Corny at all.
Yeah.
And most of that corny stuff, it's corny because it's repeated a lot.
That's right.
It's repeated a lot for a reason.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so one thing that my mentor that really drilled in was the why. To understand, and if we understand the why, then the how kind of takes care of itself. Mm-hmm. And we look through what we were doing next through the lens of the why. And as long as you, and I always say this, you got you have your core values and you have your mission statement, right? And the mission statement is where you're headed, your destination, all right? Your core values are how you're going to get there. You can get to a destination, but if it doesn't line up with your core values, then did you really do what you wanted to do in the end? So that the lens we started there was, okay, it's just not about creating robots. It's about creating some type of shared value with your employees for them to understand the why. So when you do roll out systems, they're not just saying, I'm doing a tally mark or a tick mark, or I'm doing this data report, or I'm doing it. They understand the why behind it. Mm-hmm. That's the thing that I don't think organizations do enough, is explaining the why. We treat employees a lot of times like robots. Mm-hmm. So it was about aligning with the why. And once we did that, we then said, okay, there's not going to be a one-size-fit-all system. If you're looking for that, you're crazy. It's just not going to happen.
Especially across that many industries.
No.
That are so starkly different.
Vastly different.
Armed guards versus insurance versus environmental.
Yeah.
They're not similar.
Right.
Usually when you see companies branching out and building systems, it's an offshoot of a system they already have in place.
Right. But let's go back to the why we talked about it. One thing we looked at, it wasn't random. As though it may seem random when you look at the industry types, it wasn't. There was a lot of synergy in those organizations. Let's break it down from this standpoint. anytime we did something, it was based off of finding the synergy in that organization. If the biggest arm we had was environmental, okay? If you have environmental, you have large construction projects. What do you need? You need insurance.
True.
Right? A lot of times on these environmental sites, they had to be guarded. We also did construction.
So it's a one-stop shop, basically.
Create synergy,
Yeah.
and we allow those systems to talk. And there's not a system in place that will, right now, will maybe with AI, but there's not very many systems in place that will overlook bad employees. You can have the best systems in the world, but if you have bad people around you, you're not going to be successful. So it's about finding the right people and making sure that they understood our vision and went from there.
Let me ask you this. You talk about the importance of the right people. How do you find the right people?
That's very tough.
That is a tough one because I don't know the answer to this. Is one of the things I don't like. A lot of stuff you've said is stuff I've heard before, stuff that but that's something I don't know the answer to.
Yeah. I will say that I've heard this before. It's not any good employees, just bad company. I don't believe that. There are legit bad employees.
There are.
Right?
100%.
Right. And what I've learned about employees is sometimes we move them too fast. Mm-hmm. We give them positions too fast. We don't let them earn it. All right. One thing I try to do is when we bring in different people in the organization is we look through them through the lens of our core values first. If they don't align, that's a I don't care what your resume look like. We cannot agree about our core values, then we don't need to go further. And I think sometimes we look at the resume, but we don't look at the substance of the person. And that, to me, is more important than a resume.
That's crazy. So so is it just in the interview process and the questions you're asking?
Everything is geared through the lens. Like, for instance, how to overcome objectives, the why that you even asked, the reason why you wanted this job. If the reason why you wanted this job was just to make a living and you have no aspirations of growth, but my core value, one of them has to do with growth, we're not going to do well.
Yeah.
So I want to understand what their makeup is. And through their makeup, hey, the resume gets you the interview. The core values get you hired.
Right.
And so that's kind of how we look at things is we want to make sure they align with that first. Yeah. That we don't move further after that.
My dad is blowing me up.
No, do your thing.
Cut this up. Hey, I'm recording the podcast right now. What's up? Is it important? What's going on? What's going on? You're locked out of your truck. I mean, I can pause for a second. I mean, it's not live. What do you need? To what? Oh, okay. So you need somebody to take you to the house. Okay. Give me just a little bit to Let me get done here, and I'll give you a call. If you don't have anything figured out, I'll run it out there to you. All right, bye. Sorry about that.
No, do your thing.
He was blowing me up, and my dad doesn't do that.
Yeah. Same.
My dad, if he calls me and I don't answer, he's like, because he understands. He's like,
right.
Oh, he's busy.
Right.
He's like, okay, well, he'll get back with me.
Yeah.
But if he's calling me over and over again,
I'm
like, all right, there's something.
No, do your thing.
Yeah. I better pick that up.
Yeah.
Where were we? Let's pick it back up.
Yeah.
Finding the right people. The right people. I know that's been a. So, and I'm only going to be able to see things through the lens of my perspective.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I know that for me as a person, the stuff you're talking about has been all my issues. All the things that have stopped me from growing that's why I'm loving this interview's been great. And I haven't said a lot because I'm getting so much out of this because everything you're saying of number one, understanding the why, that's been, well, I want to be successful. That's not a why.
Yeah.
That's not a why. That's I want to be successful. I want to be rich. That's not really a why on its own. And then, how to hire, how to attract the right people, what to ask. Because one of the issues I have, and Mo can attest to this, is I'm not a oversight guy. I'm like, hey, I want people like, hey, I need this to get figured out.
Sure.
Go figure this out.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that, you almost can't work for me.
Right.
Because it's like, if I got to sit there and figure it out, I don't really need you. You know? But that's also lack of systems. That's also going to come back to, especially when you're diving into new things where, all right, we're doing a podcast. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know how to set any of this up.
Right.
I don't understand it at all.
Right.
Mo takes care of it.
Right.
He's been great for that. But But yeah, that's why I'm just really enjoying this, because a lot of what you're saying is like, it makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
So give me an example of like core values. Like, how do you build your core values, and how do you take that to your employees in a way that they understand it and they understand the why? Because we talk about the why. Well, what is the why? Well, we want the company to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Again, not really a why.
Right.
So how do we do that? How does somebody at home, more of an actionable step?
Right. Yeah, I would start off with, don't worry about trying to write these fancy core values that rhyme and have an acronym tied to it. You write down, it could be as simple as writing down a sheet of paper. What do you want? What does success look like for you? And that definition is going to look different for everyone. Mm-hmm. When you take your last breath and you say, take money out. And another thing, I would say this. One thing that I've learned is, don't chase money. If you chase greatness, money will follow. And so I knew that was that's something free. But when it comes to core values, it don't have to be anything that's special. Just write it down. Hey, I'm gonna. Is something wrong?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, you
just
good.
checking on time.
You good. So when it comes to core values, you don't have to be anything fancy. Mm-hmm. Just write down what do you want out of this, and out of that, say, all right, what does success look like? And from that, that's where you're going to pull your core values. I tell you this: one of our core values that we have is strive for greatness. Anybody that's part of our team has to strive for greatness, not perfection, but greatness. Right. And so that came from my story of wanting to leave a footprint. In order to leave a footprint for my kids to follow, I have to strive for greatness. I got to set the bar. And my prayer is for them to surpass that bar and take it another step. So striving for greatness, the way I communicate that to the employees is, we strive for greatness, but why? Not money. Can't be money. What is your why why you want to strive for greatness? Is it your kids? Is it because you want to leave a legacy? Whatever that looks like. And so that's how we really try to bring our core values to life, by asking them, how do they see themselves through our core values?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
for sure. And I like that too, because as someone like me, and people at home, and people that know me on the outer surface, this might come as a shock, but people that really know me, it won't. I am not monetary driven at all.
Right.
Money does not motivate me.
Right.
Freedom motivates me. Ability to give motivates me. Ability to invest in other people motivates me. A footprint and a legacy motivate me. My children motivate me. But a paycheck, I've never had a job before.
Right.
So, well, I mean, not a big, I've never had a big boy job
before.
Sure. I bounced at bars. I swung a hammer a little bit, and did some drywall here and there, but because for me it was all about that. It was all about the legacy and the footprint and the freedom, and me being in charge of my own day, my own legacy of what I'm leaving behind. That's what really motivated me. So I like that, because and you hear different people saying different things. I don't know if you've ever heard the song. I've never even heard it, but like Grant Cardone is used in a song where he says, you hear people say, don't chase the money. Forget that. Go chase that money. Go chase that money. But like, that didn't vibe with me.
Right.
Like that's just not my, because if I got $1 million in the bank account, or $100 million in the bank account, but I'm not doing anything of purpose with that,
then the meaning.
Who cares?
Yep.
I mean, for what I want in this market, I could live. The house I want's a $1.5-2 million house. Mm-hmm. That's and that sounds like a lot,
right?
But in the grand scheme of things of the world, I mean, that's a 3.2 in California.
That's right.
You know what I mean? 1,500 square foot.
Yeah.
So for me, it's all about that. It's all about that legacy, and so I love that, man. So. And we're spending way more time on the story here, but I love the story you're telling. I love. Since then, there's been a lot of more changes.
Yeah, absolutely.
How did that come about, and what kind of struggles did you have coming out and then doing your own thing over here and over there? You got into the fitness industry. Yeah. You got into the real estate industry again. Mm-hmm. You got into so many things. What did that look like? And what struggles did you go through?
Yeah, so as we started building an organization and growing, problems change. When the bigger you get, You don't get less problems. You just get bigger problems and different problems. And, we grew the organization, and I look back and I'm very, very proud of what we were able to accomplish during that. And what you realize is, and this has been a very, very sobering situation for me, is realizing just because you're trying to do something great and significant does not mean that everybody's going to cheer for you.
Usually the opposite.
It's quite the opposite.
Usually the opposite, yeah.
Quite the opposite. So we're growing an organization. We're building. We're 10xing, right? Yeah, we're 10xing the organization. We're growing an organization.
Back Grant Cardone on there.
Oh yeah, that's a nod to Grant. And in 2022, it feels like there was always going back to those pivot, right? Those. If it is a great book, David versus Goliath. It's they call the near misses, and that's chapter.
Write that down for me.
Chapter about near misses, and it came. It's David versus Goliath. Yeah, and so it was a near miss happening again, and that's in 2022. We're just coming out of a pandemic, as everybody knows. We're just doing business like everybody else in 2022, and I never forget. I was doing a lot of traveling. I probably was at that time, because we had an office in Columbus, we had an office in Texas, and we had an office in Atlanta by this time. And so I had everybody that ran a division, they reported to me, and I would go and I would just meet with them and make sure everything in their sector is going well. So I had a director of operations for the environmental, director of operations for security, director of operations and construction. And I built the system where they would report to me, and we would, work together to be successful. So I was doing a lot of traveling. Now I'm managed in the system, right? Instead of the company, I'm managing the system.
Right.
Pandemic happens. We're rocketing along, pivoting very well, just having to figure it out. 2022 happens, and my world comes crashing down.
I was wondering if you were going to talk about this.
Yeah,
I wasn't gonna pull it out of you.
Oh no, I think it's one part of my story that if without this part of the story, the person I am today, it wouldn't make sense. And so in 2022, I'm in Biloxi, Mississippi. We now, because of the security part, I'm down at a chief of police conference. We pivoted from doing armed security to camera and cyber, because we realized there was nothing to guard during the pandemic.
Yeah.
There was nothing to guard. So we pivoted to cameras. And so we're rolling that out. Wanting to do trade shows. And one trade show where it was at, it was in Biloxi. I was headed down there. My wife calls me and says, listen, you've been super, super busy. We haven't been on vacation this year. Do you mind if we come along and tag along? Typically they wouldn't, because I was gone so much. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. So they went to Biloxi. I actually had a meeting prior night in Birmingham. It was a late meeting, so I was going to meet them down in Biloxi. We get down there. I'm meeting with the chief of police across the whole state, introducing them to our technology that we're able to bring to the state, and going well. Went back to the hotel room, went to sleep, woke up to a phone call. From that point on, that phone call changed my life. And it was an agent on the other line. And
what do you mean by agent?
It was a federal agent on the other line.
I knew what you meant.
Yeah. There was a federal agent on the other line. And said, is this Antwann? I said, yeah. Where are you? I said, I'm out of town. I said, okay, we need you to come back in town. And I was like, can you tell me what this is about? I have no clue. And he's like, don't worry about that. And I'm like, well, I am worried about it. Can you tell me what is going on? And the next words were, you either can come here now or we'll classify you as a fugitive. And my family's with me. We're in the hotel room. I'm in the bathroom. My wife's in the bathroom with me. I'm looking at her. She's looking at me. It's like, what's going on? I'm like, I do not know. I remember just staring in the mirror, just in shock. Finally, she said, you have to go. I was froze. I didn't know what to do. So I get in the car, heading to figure this out. My phone is blowing up. And I'm from everybody in Columbus, because Columbus saw what was going on, I had no clue. I had no clue what was going on. So my phone is going on and say, "Are you okay? Are you okay? What am I okay? Like, what can somebody tell me what's going on?" I had no clue. And so I'm driving and I'm getting calls and say, "Hey, your office is surrounded by the FBI." And I went from one night meeting with the chief of police all over the state and the other people that are pretty important, large companies, to now I'm headed to Oxford, Mississippi for a federal arraignment to be arrested.
Wow.
And didn't even have a clue why.
Wow. Have you ever told this before? Like on a
No,
platform?
not on platform.
That's awesome. This is great.
Yeah.
This is good.
Yeah.
So what happened? What's going on? Like, what's
So
the deal?
so I get there and I jump out the truck. I'm walking up to this major, big, huge courthouse, not knowing what to expect. I walk in and police are there and they said, "Are you Antwann?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, sorry, we got to do this. We got to handcuff you." I've never been in trouble my whole life, like ever. Not even close. That wasn't on the Uno board, Monopoly board. So they handcuffed me, take me upstairs, go through the process, and then they put me in more shackles. So I'm walking into a courtroom with media, and I'm with media and family and other spectators, and I have shackles on both arms and both feet. Walking into a courtroom.
Why do they put shackles on your feet?
We're gonna get
Not
there.
like your flight risk. You drove home. You drove.
Yeah,
There 6 hours.
There were tankers around my office. It was a lot. And at that point, I'm like, what in the world?
And you don't even know what you're charged with yet.
I have no clue. So they tell me, they said, look, here's your option. Your option is you can either let us sit here and explain the indictment, or you can go see the judge. If you miss the judge before he leaves by us going through this paperwork, you have to spend the night in jail. I'm like, no, let's go see the judge. I'll figure this out later. And so we go in the courtroom and they put these stacks of papers in front of me, and I'm like handcuffed and I'm looking at this and I'm just going through the papers, and beside me is the owner of the company and he's looking at me, and we can't talk to each other. We're just trying to communicate visual, like what is going on. He had no clue. Neither one of us. So I'm reading the documents. I'm like, that's not right. That's wrong. No, that didn't never happen. And I'm just reading. I'm like, all of this is wrong. Like, I knew day one. So
what were they accusing you of? What was the charge?
Well, the charge or the why?
Either. Both. Okay. Let's do both. Let's start with the charge and then go to the why.
Okay. The charge was wire fraud based off of PPP fraud. Okay. And the why.
That's what I'd heard.
Yeah. The why behind it was the why that was told to us at that particular time was because remember that security company I was telling you about, the pivot?
Yep.
Because we went from armed guards to cameras during the pandemic, and they said, well, you knew that you were going to get out of that type of business and get into camera business, but you still did that. You still accepted the federal funds. We kept the same employees that was managing it. We're just changing the industry, which is 100% acceptable.
And it's because when you came back out of the pandemic, you didn't go back to armed guards?
That's correct.
Wow. Okay.
So
were there like low-level employees that they got the people? Is that where it came from? Because
well, we paid them all the employees the money that were there, right. And then those employees went and did security with the same contracts with another firm. Okay. But that was after the PPP.
How can you? That seems like a charge based on an assumption of you knowing that you're not going to go back to armed security, and then, like you said, you kept your same people. So how did it play out? What happened?
Well, it didn't make sense. When I met with my attorney, it didn't make sense of why we were getting charged. We're a legitimate business, a large business. Why in the world are we going through this charge? And so, first meeting we have with the federal agents, it's called a reverse proffer. And what a reverse proffer is, they tell you their hand. they show you their hand and basically say, based off our hand, you should plea. So when they showed us the hand, it did not make sense. And my attorney asked them, they said, we've been watching you guys for quite some time. And it was before the pandemic. And
PPP loan money?
Exactly. So if it was before, why are you watching us before if this is about PPP? And my attorney asked that question in the meeting. And I was sitting here, beside me was a federal agent, and across from me was a prosecutor. And they just looked at each other and smiled. And the agent then says something that has ended up being a dire situation for him. And that was, you're right. This doesn't have anything to do with PPP or EIDL.
Okay, so what did it have to do with?
And this is all public knowledge now because it's part of a federal lawsuit. But this has to do with the city of Columbus and possible corruption there. And if you tell us what you know, we will work out something for you. And I want you to imagine a faucet, and instead of water coming out, charges are going to come out until we get what we want. That's what was said in that meeting.
Wow.
At this point, I'm in a horrible situation.
Yeah.
Because I have no clue what to tell them. There's nothing. That's literally was nothing for me to say. Like nothing.
You don't work for the city of Columbus.
Don't work for the city of Columbus. I didn't know any. At that moment, obviously, if there was something for me to say, if I didn't do anything, I know they say snitches and all this, but my family's more important than anybody.
You're going to the house.
Right.
You're going to the house.
Right. Yeah, my family's more important than anybody. And so obviously if there was something that I'm like, hey, I'm not involved with this, but it would have happened, but there was nothing for me to say.
And I'm assuming this all stems back to someone who was involved in the company that was also involved in City of Columbus politics.
That's right. That's right.
I'm not going to use the name.
Right. But again, there was nothing that was.
But there was no crossover.
There was no wrong. That was, when I say this, I'll never forget this. When the first attorney that I interviewed said, look, you need to figure out something you can tell these people. And I said that day, I'm not going to lie for anybody. I'm not going to lie on anybody. And I'm not going to.
So what were they, do you even know what they were trying to get out of you in terms of the corruption? What they were accusing?
Never, no details. No details whatsoever was given. And I left there and my attorney said, well, Antwann, it's game on. I said, what do you mean? He said, there's no talking with them. And I made a mistake. I'm going to be the first person to say I made a major mistake that could have cost me my freedom, thinking that I knew I just was born right and wrong. Right is right, wrong is wrong. Mm-hmm. So I said to my attorney, hey, these facts are wrong. I created these binders that has all the facts. Just give it to them. They'll look at it and realize they made a mistake.
No.
Messed up. We did that. My attorney said, look, I will do it if you want me to.
Did he recommend against it?
He recommended against it. We did it anyways. And they got all the information and realized everything in that original indictment was wrong. And instead of saying, hey, we were wrong, they did what's called a superseding indictment, which changed it from you did X, Y, to Z from that to conspiracy of wanting to do that. Basically, we're not saying you did it. We're just saying that you thought about doing it. And so now you're on trial for the contents of your heart, which is harder to prove.
Yeah. That's a much harder charge to evict, I would.
Or overcome.
Yeah. Right.
Because the only thing you have to do is paint a certain picture.
So what were they saying that you were intending to do?
They at the beginning that we knew before we even moved over to the camera security that we knew that we were going to go cameras before accepting the money, and we knew that this was wrong, and we did it anyways. Number one, it was never wrong, and number two, I didn't have a magic wand. I never knew I didn't know that was going to be a pandemic.
And the money went to the employees.
The money went to the employees.
So you didn't keep the money.
We were charged with a financial crime without them doing a financial audit. Federal government never did a financial audit. You know who did a financial audit?
Who?
We did. We did a financial audit on every single dollar, every single dime, every single day from the whole period that they accused us of, and presented it in court. You know what they had? No financial audit.
So
they didn't. They used
over right there.
They
right?
used our financial audit in the court.
So is that how the charges got dropped?
That didn't get dropped.
Didn't get dropped.
We didn't get dropped. We went to trial.
Okay.
I went to a 2-week, which for me, looking back, you never know how God lines things up. You know, I thought and I wanted the charges to be dropped.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted.
Heck yeah. Because you're sitting at home wondering if you're going to prison.
Yeah. I wanted the charge to be dropped. But now what I realize is God's greater plan wasn't for the charges to be dropped, but for me to go through something, to be, number one, to learn something, but also for him to get the glory and to bring us through where there could be no questions.
Yeah. You know, they say, I heard a quote the other day that said, when God wanted to make David a king, he didn't bring him a crown, he brought him Goliath.
That's good stuff.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When God wants to make a king, he don't bring jewels and crowns and power. He brings hardship.
That's right.
He
brings
brings pain.
Yeah. So we went through about a week and a half trial. I had to testify. I was on the stand for over 8 hours. You know, obviously over a 2-day span, and we had a jury of 12 individuals that did not know us and presented a case. And cases through the federal system are 98% conviction rate. 98%.
Wow.
Combined, we had 34 charges. We're not guilty on all 34.
Wow.
One of the largest cases ever in the state history of Mississippi.
That's insane. That is insane. So moving on from this, okay? Great story, by the way.
Yeah.
I appreciate you telling it on here because that's awesome. How do we pivot next? What's the next step for you? How do you pivot from this?
Yeah, so my attorney at that, two things. My attorney in the beginning, so I feel like I saw my life progress. So like I saw my life from wanting to be a musician to understand what it is to be a father, to understand what it means to get in business, to understand what it means to grow a business, you know, or grow a business that I'm involved in. Now I'm in the stage of taking all those lessons. Now it's time for me to do it.
Right.
And I was blessed and fortunate to have people like my mentor at the time to give me those opportunities to learn and to grow, right? So now my attorney said something that was really profound. He said, when I walked in this door for the first day, he told me, congratulations. And I said, for what? What do you mean, congratulations? He said, you just received a gift that most people don't get until they die. And I said, what's that? You realize what matters and who matters.
And this was on the first day of
It's the first day.
Wow.
You're going to realize who matters and what matters. And I've held on to that. And I made sure that I kept, I haven't been perfect in that, right? But I made sure I'm realizing what matters and who matters, and that's what I put first. Nothing else matters. And so during this time, Legacy is our main company, and we have a real estate firm of about 29 agents. Right now, we're number one in the Golden Triangle with total volume, doing really, really well. And we were fortunate during that time, the company grew. During our worst season of our lives, our company grew from 5 to 6 agents during the time of the indictment. Before the case was over, up to 15, 16 agents. After, we're up to 28.
Wow.
Which
Y'all have grown a lot.
We grew. We grew throughout the process, which was 100% had to be God, because we're not that smart, right? And
that's the thing about a charge like this, because when I obviously heard things about it,
right?
But I've been in situations where I've had friends and I've had people, like, I never assume guilt on anybody until I know.
Right.
So, like, if somebody says something, I'm like, look, we don't know this. We don't know that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Right.
Like, I don't know what's going on. But that's not the case for most people. Most people, the moment you are accused of something or your name is dragged through the mud or whatever, most people assume guilt.
100%.
And even if you get a non-guilty verdict or whatever, they still just going to think you lawyered up and got out of it. You know what I mean? Like, that's still the assumption that people make. So being able to grow a business with that going on, when you've got people that are second guessing you and second guessing the future of your company because like this is up in the air.
Yeah.
You know, like if this goes sideways, this company may disappear potentially, you know.
That happened.
And so when being able to grow in that season, it's got to be God or something. There's something going on. Cause I mean, that's impressive because I mean, typically, and for me, and this is another question that kind of ties in what we're talking about, the stress of dealing with that would discourage me from trying to grow the company. I would not want to grow because I'm having to deal with the anxiety and the stress of all this going on. Even if I'm Kalina, even if I'm my wife, she's stressed out too. This ain't just you, it's your whole family. Everybody's stressed out.
100%.
You know, so how do you deal with the stress of just day-to-day business, but also how did you deal with the stress of this and still be able to grow?
Yeah, it goes back to something that was said. If you remember that conversation that I said I had with my mentor in the parking lot of the bank, he said, a man's name and his word is everything. Two things that reminded me of that was when I had to sit the kids down, obviously, and have conversations with them. I'll never forget two things two of my kids did. Number one, my son, when I sat with him outside on the back porch, and I said, you know, hey, I just want you to understand what's going on. And I ended it with, you understand that your dad wouldn't do anything like that. And he looked at me, he said, I know you wouldn't do anything like that because I know who you are. That's my name. That meant the world. So I knew then I had to continue fighting for my name.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget the second part was my word. I was leaving for the trial, the day of the trial. My daughter was in the garage. She's 12. At the time, she was 10. And I looked at her and I grabbed her hand. I looked at her and I said, no matter what, I promise you, Dad will be back. I promise you. I said, do you believe me? He said, yes, sir. I said, I promise you. I knew if I gave my daughter my word, I was going to make it happen. I was going to fight. Let me put it like that. And so what I did was, at that case, I reminded myself of my why. At the bottom of my notebook, I put the word, my promise, at the bottom of my notebook. And anytime I felt any anxiety, any stress, didn't know what to do, I put an exclamation point by my promise, because I had to stay focused on what I promised my word. And so through that process at the trial, some days had more exclamation points than others.
Yeah.
But on the last day of the trial, every not guilty had an exclamation point. And I went back and I was able to show her I kept my promise.
Wow.
So I had to stay focused. And that goes back to understanding the why, understanding why you do things. And for that moment, I had to remember who was important and what was important. So that's what got us through.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an incredible story.
Yeah.
That's an incredible story.
But how we pivoted now to where we are now, I always enjoy the company that we're our newest venture we're super excited about. It's called Back Nine Capital Group. And Back Nine Capital Group is a very boutique real estate fund that we just launched. We're so excited to go into underutilized areas, invest capital there to build things that people never thought was possible. And that's what we're doing. And the way that I'm not a great golfer, so that's not why the Back Nine came about. So we were watching my wife. We became couch potatoes during that time because we were just, stressed out during the trial or before the trial, during the wait. And when golf came on, and the only reason we were watching golf because I couldn't find a remote control. And my wife looked at me. She said, "Why do they keep saying the Back Nine? Like they said, they're about to go in the back. What does that mean?" And I told her where the Back Nine is. They play the first 9 holes, and they go and they will adjust. They will, think about what they could have done better, and they can come back and be better on the Back Nine. And she said, "Then I can't wait for our Back Nine."
Wow.
So that's how the name
awesome.
Back Nine came about. And during that time, man, again, watching my mom grow up, it was never about pity party. It's about, okay, we're here. Let's pivot. Let's go. Got indicted on June 16th, 2022. By September of 2022, I was a licensed agent. I went and studied for the test, passed the real estate test again, got inundated. It was trial, learn about funds. Trial, learn about funds every single day. Because I wanted to make sure I knew what I was going to do and who I was going to be outside of the trial.
Yeah.
And so I just inundated myself with those two things. And trial happened. We ended it. And now we have started a real estate fund the month after the trial.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So it's a fund, and y'all go into areas and tell me exactly what you're doing. Like what
Yeah, so for those who don't know what a real estate fund is, it's basically a pool of money where investors can come and invest in real estate projects that they normally can't be part of. That's done through a 506B offering through the SEC. So we actually have a security in the stock market per se with the Security Exchange Commission. So basically people will invest in the real estate fund, and in that portfolio we're able to do our predominant focus is on commercial real estate and multifamily. But we're also looking at doing some sustainable housing in areas where we can provide sustainable housing to the area and workforce and transitional housing in the area. And so when you invest in Back Nine, that's what you're investing in.
Wow.
And they get returns quarterly and yearly. And so we're taking this and about to start a few projects around in the Golden Triangle. So be on the lookout for those projects. Super excited about those. And but yeah, we're kicking off our real estate fund and super excited about it.
Awesome. That's crazy. That's crazy. So you've got that going. You've got legacy going.
Yeah.
You've got the fitness industry that you're trying to take over at the same time.
Oh yeah. Reimagine Fitness.
Yeah.
Super excited about that, creating opportunities for people no matter where their walk of life is in the fitness industry, whether it's boutique, whether it's group training, whether it's just you want to lift heavy. We also have a fourth concept coming, which is for athletes. That's big now where athletes are trying to find an edge and get to the next level. So we're creating, that's actually going to be a ground up facility that we build and where they can do sports performance training. Awesome. Not only we train them physically, but there also will be a mental and social aspect to it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. For athletes, I found we're getting to something I have a lot more experience in here, which, I do real estate, but I'm still learning a lot and still doing some things. But the mental aspect for athletes is huge, and sports specific training is huge. Me and Kevin McCrary were talking about this today. Actually, we were at the core at your spot, and we were talking about the right type of training. Like when you look at what does an NFL training room look like,
right?
And what does a D1 training work like
all day.
Alabama? Does that look like what most of these kids are doing in the weight room in high school? Does that look like what fighters are doing in the gym? Yeah. When they're getting ready for fights, when we're looking at, we're talking about the show, I like to look for commonalities in a lot of things. So when I'm looking at really high level performers, where athletes are more than a 4-year or a 2-year, they're a multi-million-dollar investment, and you want to take care of them, or when you want to get the most out of them, what does that training look like? What does the mindset training look like? What values are they coaching that allow these athletes to compete at a high level and not crack under pressure?
Right.
Their body's able to hold up. They're able to stop and go quickly. They're able to cut angles quickly. All these different aspects. Whereas if you're deadlifting 500 pounds, it's heavy weight, you're not doing any of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's not the type of training. Is that something I really get into a lot? Like that. The mental side is probably my favorite thing, because the reason the mental side is so important to me is because it's what held me back. The mental side of fighting was, in my career, I couldn't manage the anxiety well enough. And it's not that it made me not compete, but when your brain goes into that fight or flight, uncomfortable, you've got so much pressure on the moment, you don't perform.
Right.
And that's true not just in sports.
Right.
And I did some mindset I've listened to some stuff from some mindset coaching, and then I went and listened to like Chelsea Anderson and Nick Saban, these guys. And it all comes back to a process-driven organization, not an outcome-driven organization. Getting into the right mindset of what matters is the process and the right focus, like you say, the why of I'm going to be it's not about winning the game Friday. It's about I'm going to be the best receiver, or I'm going to be the best fighter. I'm going to be perfect in every way that is in my controllable ability. And that's the focus of everything that you do. Made a difference, but it was too late for me. You know, I'm in my mid-30s. And then the other thing that held me back was I was in a bad car accident when I was a kid and shattered my left leg in the knee joint, and I didn't retrain mobility, stability. I was squatting a little bit. I was doing these things, but I wasn't retraining the muscles and the stabilizers and things that I needed to be able to perform at a really high level. And those were the two things that held me back as an athlete. From being able to go to do something bigger. Yeah. You know. And then the other thing was just lack of facility in the area. I was going to have to move, and it was like, you know, am I really good enough is the financial outcome of this for MMA going to warrant me leaving everything behind? And it wasn't for me.
Do I smell a comeback?
Know? So.
Do I smell a comeback?
You know, I'm not going to make any announcements right now.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm focused on a lot of other things. I've also got a torn ACL right now and bulging disc in my neck.
Oh, wow.
So it's hard for me to train the way I would need to train.
Yeah.
You know, I would have to go probably have 2 pretty serious surgeries. And I don't know. Yeah. I've seriously considered it, but what I wanted to do when I started the gym, and I don't, you know, I'm not going to say this, we probably end up cutting this out, but was I wanted to create something here that if there were guys here that wanted, that was one of my big things starting out. I was like, okay, well, I don't have that here. I would have to move, but I do it one day.
Yeah.
When I got some other kid coming up, he's not going to have to move.
Love it.
There's going to be somebody here that can coach him and get him where he needs to be. So,
love it.
Man, this was a lot of fun. This was a great episode, man. Yeah. I really appreciate you coming on. Anything you want to add before we take off?
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited for your podcast and can't wait to see more episodes and dive in. I think this is something that's very, very needed in the conversations that have to happen. And man, I'm super excited for you.
Man, heck yeah. I appreciate it, brother.
The pleasure's mine.
I'll see you around, man. We here in the same town, so I'm gonna see you around.
Let's make it happen.
We're gonna get lunch or something one day.
Let's make it happen.
We'll see y'all on the next episode, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Go check us out on YouTube. Go check us out. You can download this. Obviously, if you listen to it, you can download this anywhere you get your podcast. And also go check us out on Facebook and Instagram. See y'all in the next episode. Peace.
Good, bro.
Great stuff, man.
You like it?